Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Coffee with Derek and Craig. I was kind of getting started this morning. I've kind of narrowed it down. I was telling Craig just a few minutes ago before the show that figured out what that printed plate was. It's actually a harmonica cover. It has all kinds of detail on it, and it actually fit those the plates that to fit on either side of a harmonica. This one's actually a. Would you say, Craig, Honer?
Horner.
Horner, M. Horner, it says on it, and it's really detailed. Like it had this little part on there. It looks like a seated Liberty, which I know it's not now, but it kind of looks like a seated Liberty coin on it. And then it has like the wreaths, like on a Indian head, Craig, on either side of it. These are real small. You can see them with a jeweler's loop, but don't know how they put it on there or anything. But it's actually a German harmonica. This one was kind of weird. I was looking at, it has the same design, the hands reaching over, holding what looks like a coin or I don't know, a disc. Anyways, I don't know what that represents, but this one I saw was 1887 or something like that. Is the one they had a photo of, and they were actually copper with, I think, silver plating on it. But yeah, the one I have, this one had a lot more information on it than mine. But I noticed that where it had dates on the one I saw online, mine would say, like, instead of 1887, it had 18 space, like a number supposed to be there, and then a 6. But then the 8 was up in this coin area. It was what looks like a seated Liberty coin, but it's not. And it's up in there. It's weird, Craig. It just kind of. It's like it predated it a little bit, that they didn't have all the information, but they shipped them out anyways. But it kind of goes along with this site. I've been finding higher quality stuff here for the times, what they had in this area. The cane top, the fancy buttons. I did find, I think I told you guys, I found it still very well may be a railway button. It's definitely 18... I'm gonna say 1860s, Craig, because it definitely looks like it to me, anyways, from what I'm seeing online. But it very well could be a wagon. It looks like it has 3 wheels and a drive wheels and a train. And I don't think they had 3 wheels back there, did they? They only had the 2, if I remember right. But I don't know what the narrow gauge steel train looked like. Really. I mean, I got photos online, but I don't remember seeing what 3 drives.
I think they might have. I don't know.
Well, if they did.
Have different. They had a lot of different locomotives back then.
Yeah, it's kind of unique. It looks more like a cuff button. It's small enough to be like, it looks like an eagle cuff button size. It's not a great big one. I have a bigger one in my office that I found about 10 years ago. And I found it at the church site where all those houses had burned down and stuff. And when I posted it up then, they said, "Oh no, that's not Civil War era." They were barking at me a little bit. Well, about 3 or 4 years ago, I was looking at buttons and I saw the same identical button, and it says right on there, Civil War railway button, and it has a picture of a locomotive on it. Now, the locomotive on this one it looks a little bit older, or looks a little different, but it turns out don't always believe everything you see what people give you information about, because new stuff's getting posted all the time. And if you got a gut feeling something, it's like with that harmonica reed, Craig. Even I said it in the video when I found it. Oh, that looks like a harmonica. Well, no, it isn't. It's a plate, but it actually was part of a harmonica. Usually, your first instinct when you see something is usually right. Until you start doing research and stuff, and you kind of come back to it. I've been together with so many stone tools and or not stone tools, but tools for cutting stone and everything. I was telling Craig, I pretty much figured I found they were doing a lot of brickwork down here. We have a lot of Sumter County rock in this county, and I was seeing a lot on this site. Relatively shallow. I'm finding plow blades, so they tried to plow this land, but with all the rock. We were talking boulders, it was just snapping plow blades off, I'm assuming, because I already found 3 or 4 where they tried to do this in this area. And then my wife was telling me that she remembers stories of back, from her great grandmother or whatever, from way back, that they would actually They had a stone, essentially a stonemason. He had all the product he needed around him, and he would hire people or whatever, and make brick for fireplaces. The big fireplaces along the side of the house or whatever. These real fancy ones. You can use this rock for a lot of stuff. It lasts for a long time, but it's a different kind of brick. When they put it up, there was a process they do. They heat it up on a fire, lift these rocks, whatever they could pick up on there without burning.
Well,
themselves.
usually bricks are made out of clay.
Right.
It's probably some kind of whitish clay that they used.
Yeah, well, these are actually, we didn't have a lot of this stuff down here in Florida. I mean, it's mostly sand down here, but this limestone rock, they would put it on the fire. That's the reason they did it. She said they would heat them up. They'd lift it up on an anvil or something like that, put a mason chisel, wider one or a blade, or I've even, not going into too much detail, but they use sickle blades too. And they would drive this, take a sledgehammer. It's a wooden mallet, actually. They wouldn't use the metal, but they would use this big wooden mallet and smack down on this because the rock was heated up. It would break it and give it a finer, flatter edge on it. Then they could take and flip it and do what they needed to do to make a brick or stone to do a wall or whatever else. But that was what they had around here. They didn't have so much of the red brick like we're normally seeing. I found a lot of this stuff on an old house that actually had a whole chimney from inside coming right out of the top of the roof, was all made out of this Sumter County rock. It's kind of like when they fire it, it gives it this chalky kind of. It's lighter brick and it's chalky like. I don't know how to explain it. It's from the fire is what it amounts to when they heat it up like that. But it's definitely a different feel and everything. But it's interesting because there wasn't very many places around here like that. Of course, we have limestone mines now that have been going since the 40s or something like that, right down literally 5 miles from my house. And they dynamite and everything else. They're pulling out limestone. But I'm sure that they made concrete. I don't know the process of making concrete, but I know it's sand and it's lime, something else, whatever to make concrete like. So, yeah, it's just interesting. I found a turpentine plant over in Center Hill years ago, and found a bunch of materials and stuff they would use in tools and stuff like that. Finding these locations is kind of neat. So I'm still putting together the story, but a lot of this stuff I'm finding like the cane knife. That's what the one knife is that I had laying on the table, Craig, and it's actually supposed to be about another 6 to 8 inches longer. So it broke off, but where did a cane knife come from when we don't have sugar cane up here at all? It was actually probably a worker or somebody coming from down south up there, brought it with them. We also found another blade. I don't think it's quite as old, but it's a Cuban machete. It was like the Cubans would use, real wide at one end. And I found the broken end of it. So yeah, I'm starting to ID this stuff, and it's strange the gamut of stuff that I'm finding from different areas. All the cast iron. I'm saving everything, Craig. I don't know what
Well, you got to do that.
Yeah.
I've seen people throw stuff away and then find out, oh my God, I threw something away that was really good. And when you first start metal detecting and relic hunting, most stuff is unidentifiable.
Right.
Start. It's like I found this thing the other day in my yard, and it's at first I thought it was a pair of scissors, like little small ones, and then I noticed it had like a piece on the tip of it, like pliers. And then I just kind of, I didn't, I was thinking, I don't know what it is. But last night I started thinking, I wonder if that's a gun part, like a gun tool. So I went in and looked, and it almost matches up with a one for a Gallagher rifle.
That's pretty cool.
It's a Gallagher. I think it's a Gallagher carbine combination gun tool, but they had all kinds of gun tools back then, and gun wrenches, and a lot of times they had like almost like a screwdriver. Some of them have like a V handle almost, but the handles were made so that you could use them as screwdrivers, or to unloosen or tighten up stuff on the gun.
Right.
But there's quite a few different varieties. Some of them look pretty odd, so I'm thinking I want to go back through some of the iron stuff I've kept and see if maybe I can, because some of these I was looking at, I didn't recognize them as gun tools, but that's what they're saying they are. So.
Oh, absolutely. You probably have, you've always, I'm dying here. Don't worry about it. Yeah. You've often told me that there's like 2,000 different kind of guns they used, or ammunition, or something like that in the Civil War.
Well, when the war broke out,
they were grabbing anything.
Everybody, yeah, and there was all kinds of foreign weapons. There was even guns from Italy and stuff.
Right.
But then they got standardized pretty quickly because you couldn't have like these guns. It was just too hard to
ammunition wise.
To make them keep the ammunition up. So they basically went to the 58 caliber carbine. 58 caliber rifles.
Yeah.
Springfield, and then they you had the Enfield and.
Gun parts would be like crazy. On all these guns, because back then you worked on your own stuff. They had, gun wrenches and stuff, I'm sure. Just like the leaded, where they made the bullets, Craig. I can't remember what you call them, the castings or whatever. Do you find a lot of those? You would think you would, on some of these sites, these Civil War sites where they make, you said they got standardized, so they probably wouldn't have. I'm just surprised people don't find more of those things, because they had to make bullets for these other guns.
I've even found iron cap boxes where they had the primers, caps in them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. This site, even the iron, I'm going to post it up later. I've been trying to get this stuff posted up, Craig. It's driving me crazy with everything else going on. I'm bouncing in and out of the house so much. I'm stopped cleaning some of this stuff because the iron that I have found. You have what I know is pretty much 1880s iron, and then I have iron that is considerably older, just by the way it's delaminating and stuff like that. The chisel that I found, it's like a 3.5, 4 inch wide. I think it's a Mason chisel, something like that. It's probably from the 1880s to 1905, somewhere in there. But then I have another one. It's really about toasted. But it's the same width, the same kind of style, but it's so much older. And I don't know how to date this stuff. I'm looking at it as, okay, this stuff it's coming off in layers almost. I think it's considerably older. I don't know how far back, but it's like tools were passed down. I still have stuff from my grandfather, that I have kept over the years, different tools and stuff like that. Hand tools, Model T wrenches, that kind of thing. So why wouldn't they be in the same way where, if it was a usable product, they kept it and they used it until it just broke down and died, so to speak. But I found those pieces within 10 foot of each other. And then I started digging the other day and I started finding these it's like a flat pipe that's been, or not pipe, a round stock, but it's been blacksmithed. At the end of it, the round pipe or rod has been flattened, and then there's a hole in it. I don't know if it was part of a wagon. I can't get it out of the ground. I don't know what it's connected to down there, but I can turn it like left and right, but I can't pull it up out of the ground at all. And I told John that I'm going to dig that up. I want to see what it is, because there's another pipe going into it. I may have found what I think is a forge area, a blacksmith area, something to do with those cutting brick or something like that. I just find too much of it. I need to kind of panoramic, walk around that property and show the piles of rock and the on some of the farms you would see rock piled up, these boulders and stuff like that. If you go around and out in the middle of nowhere in Florida, the farmers would pull it out of their fields every once in a while if they had a piece that kept on hitting the plow, and they'd stack them up by a tree, and you see these piles, they've been there for 100 years of rock. But this one is like spread out. There's like pieces here and there. It's like, they got to cut and they put them in piles, Craig, and it's been grown over and all the, kind of sink into the ground some. John's even using this stuff to, like put around his flower beds and stuff. There's a considerable amount, and I started finding different colors, which was strange too, because you don't see usually Sumter County rock is kind of like a white, tan, sometimes, a lot of times reddish color, blemishes all around, in it, not solid color. And I'm finding some solid colored one, which is kind of rarer limestone rock. But all this stuff is, I think I have two eras here. I mean, obviously what they came there with and what they went to. As stuff broke, they had to replace it with something. So they were, I'm kind of scared to clean some of this stuff. I mean, I'm going no clean. Get the dirt off of it, get, the little bit of rust off of it, but I don't want to clean it until I break it, or clean it till it's, you can't get any more information off of it. Because this one, I need to post up, and it looks. The only other thing it could be is a hatchet, and I mean it just wouldn't match up unless you're talking a tomahawk or something like that, which is, I don't think it is. Usually your first instinct's usually right, and I think it's one of these pieces that, the chisels that broke or it was no longer usable, and then that's when they bought new stuff and started using it, or making their own stuff, blacksmithing, whatever they did. So I guess putting photos of both of them up there, you'll get the idea what I'm talking about. I'll have to do that a little bit later. I also got a better camera, Craig. Got that other camera working, and I'm able to take better close-ups and stuff, because these cell phone drives me crazy. It cannot get the detail or focus in. I don't know what it is. It's a cheap smartphone, but I'm getting better with this one. I got a Canon that my wife had bought me years ago, and I just forgot about it.
One of the keys of you can make cameras look better if you got really good lighting,
right?
But if you don't have good lighting, that's what the problem, I think, with some of your photos. It was just kind of dark. You just couldn't see anything much on them.
Right. The focus wasn't. It just like takes it forever to, like, on a small item where this Canon has a portrait mode or whatever for, like, taking a picture of a flower or something like that, where it can get the detail. When I set it up on my tripod or my small tripod, and that way I can let it focus in on the item and then just touch a button to take a picture. That way it's not blurry and you can see more detail like that. It's worked on, especially that harmonica reed. I was able to zoom in and really get some better detail, at least as much as I could. But this stuff is really small on there, so I got to take the time to sit here and take pictures of all this stuff. And it's a good problem to have. But Pauline said, "Well, how much more do you have?" I said, "I got 2 more 5-gallon buckets out in the truck." I mean, I probably dug 100 holes anyways, and everything I was digging. Just unmasking it. I found 2 or 3 pocket watch parts. Different pocket watches, or parts for them. Another button. It's the second button pulled off that site. I'm getting down, unlayering this site a little bit more, and all these signals are popping out right next to my other dig holes, which I know there was nothing there, because when I stood up and started metal detecting again, I went over that spot and there was, the detector didn't pick up anything. I come back a week later, and all of a sudden now I got signals by it. So I disturbed the ground, broke the halos. When I packed the hole back in and went on, it has time to set and, kind of get that little bit of a halo or a little bit of undisturbed ground kind of thing. A plow. If any of you guys have done plowed fields, Craig, I know you have. So when they first plow a field, sometimes you don't get a lot of signals because it just, the air pockets or whatever, the ground is loose, and then but you go on a site that's been there that nobody's really messed with other than just mowing it, and signals are popping out everywhere. It's kind of like when you go back to Breastplate Hill and this and that. After you dig like crazy, and then you come back a week later, and all of a sudden there's signals there again. It wasn't that they were ever gone; it was disturbed ground. So, that's what I've kind of figured out with this place. I got to pull it off in layers, or I'm going to miss everything underneath. It's just these items are too big to not be blocking coins, and I've dug more shotgun shells too. In this, in an area where I was digging that cast iron out, so I'm definitely unmasking stuff. It's a process. It takes a while. I'm just not chasing a lot of these. Well, I've ended up chasing them, Craig, because I'm getting these repeatable, louder modulated signals. But then it turned out, I dig the hole and there's nails everywhere, and I finally find a piece of non-ferrous, whatever it might be, sometimes good, sometimes bad. But, 9, 10 inches down. I was like, so you dig 100 of those holes a day, man, your back is killing you. my arm doesn't hurt from swinging the detector, it hurts from digging. My other arm does. So, I'm not fussing, though, doggone it. I like it.
But it definitely gets you some exercise, that's for sure. I always tell people, you don't realize how getting up and down all the time,
Oh, no.
Tires you out.
Well, it's like I dig the main plug, and, when you're digging this stuff, you don't want to scratch something. So I always back off, like take the first scoop out, and then I'll back off like 2 or 3 inches, and then go, deeper if I can, and then pop another plug. And then I'll come from the other side and dig, another inch back. So I end up, I can do this because I'm in a field. I'm not like in somebody's front yard. I would never do that. But because I'm out in this field, and the guy, John didn't care. He says, look, I don't care what it looks like. Just make sure the holes are filled. And, it's pretty much, I can just kick the dirt back in the holes, stomp on it, and go, So that makes it nice. Now, if this was somebody's front yard, it'd be a devil. I mean, there's so many items. You get to the point where it looks like a rototiller went through their yard. You got to be really selective, and that's what it's nice to have a machine that has VDIs, like the Equinox or whatever, so you can kind of search around for the most the best signal to dig or whatever. Give you the information that might be a dime or a quarter or whatever, and that way you don't have to tear up their front yard too much, and then you can come back in a week or two and do that same thing again. You don't dig every single signal because it would just make their yard look like crap. So, I mean, I do like doing fields and stuff like that where I don't have to be so, like a surgeon, sculpting their yard or something, so, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, that's why I like hunting the woods years ago. You just bang a hole in the ground and then
yep.
Cover it up and then kick the leaves over it. Nobody can even tell you we're there.
Right. Yeah. And I told him, I said, well, if anything else, I'm aerating your soil out there because it's so hard, Craig. It's like, it's like wet sand. You get on a fluffy beach and you're walking around, and it's all nice and neat, and you get down there by the water and trying to dig that is totally different because it's so packed together from the water. That's kind of what this is over the years, whatever, 100 years, whatever it's been. That ground's never been broken, and it's had cattle on it, so it's just packed. So, I'm sitting there trying to drive a shovel in there, and you're not dealing so much with rocks or anything. It's just hard ground, so it's harder on the arch of your foot, too. I wish they'd make a pair of boots with something kind of a composite or whatever in the arch of the foot. I may try to find something like that, Craig. I mean, trying to drive this shovel in there, it's starting to kill the arch of my foot digging all these targets. And then when you hit a rock or a root or something like that, that shock that goes into your foot. I know you use entrenchment tools for years, but yeah. I mean,
actually, I've been using the Predator shovel, with a 31-inch
right.
T handle. I've been using that more. You can't really use a entrenching shovel in somebody's yard.
Right, yeah.
I mean, we have a few times. Well, I actually used one in a rough of a golf course, Army Navy Golf Club. They had a Fort Richardson there, and they wanted us to dig bullet, stuff for the display. And
right.
I was. Everybody else was out there with little digging knives, and they even had probes. And So it got so where they were seeing me, I was just banging them. I was like a machine. This one guy says, "You're a machine. You're just banging them out of the ground." And I would just walk in a circle and cut the plug with the trenching shovel, and then just flip it over and check the hole, and then dig the bullet out or whatever. But it got so where a bunch of guys were calling me over, to dig their hole for them because they couldn't get, they had these little dinky, didn't have letches back then. I'm talking almost 30
garden
years
shovel.
ago.
Yeah, it's like garden shovels, and those things bend like crazy.
But they didn't even have shovels. They were coin hunters, and
right.
They weren't relic hunters. And there was probably 4 or 5 of us that were really relic hunters. But I remember at the end of the day, the guy brought out pieces of, I guess he brought out pieces of cardboard for each person, and then you were supposed to put, your relics on it. And I said, I need another piece of cardboard. And they go, what? And I had like a pile of bullets covering the cardboard.
I think I need another board.
I think I dug more bullets than probably 10 or 15 people combined, during that hunt. It was pitiful because, these guys were just, they weren't used to relic hunting,
right.
And digging that deep, because a bullet, you can dig a bullet because the mass of it fairly deep in the ground, even with not as good a detector.
Right.
But back then, most of the guys were using White's 5900, 6000s,
right.
blue box ones.
Yeah.
And I think in a few years they went to the black box, but there was a couple guys using, I think the Fisher CZ6 had just come out, and there was a couple guys using those. It was funny that you could see the fort had been cut in half, and the ninth fairway went right through it in the green. And on one side you could see gun emplacements, and then on the other side you could see the moat. I mean the what do you call it? Not the moat, the trench that went around the fort. What do they call that? Shoot, I can't remember.
I know. Listen, you just said I could have told you 2 minutes ago.
But anyway, they were all digging in that, and there wasn't anything in there. And I thought, I heard, over the grapevine and people had told me that people had snuck in there for years, and found stuff. But we were digging along I didn't want to go out in the main. There was probably a lot of stuff in the fairway itself, but
right, you don't want to mess it all up. Yeah,
we probably could have dug it, but we were staying in the rough, and it was funny. I'd be down digging a signal, and all of a sudden I'd look up, and it'd be like a woman on a golf cart coming straight at me yelling. They go, "What the hell you think you're doing?" And I said, Colonel White is. Oh, okay, Colonel White, okay. And then they just leave.
Yeah, they get a little hyper. Yeah.
It was funny. Colonel White was he was like the historian, archivist for the fort part of it, and one of the guys in our club had been a inspector with the FBI, real high up, and he used to go around and give talks to at nursing homes and historical societies and everything, and he got to talking to this guy, and the guy says, "Well, man, we got nothing for our display," and they had this place called the Richardson Room, named after Fort Richardson, and we were able to get this giant display with 2 whole boxes full of stuff. I mean, we got 100 and some bullets, all kinds of buttons, knapsack parts. The guy was over the moon when he saw all the stuff we got. He couldn't believe it. He freaked out when I dumped this whole pile of bullets out. Because he goes, "Oh my God!" He goes, "I said, look, I'm a real relic hunter. I've been doing this for a few years, and I know what I'm doing. But I said, I can recover this stuff a lot faster than these guys because I got,
the right equipment,
technique down."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, those coin probes. I think every detector should go and try to, retrieve. Go to a park, go coin hunting, and use a probe and see just how difficult that can be when you first start out doing it. I mean, some people are very good at the coin popping. In some places, like in Pennsylvania, I heard there's a few spots where, they don't let you take shovels. All they let you bring in is a coin probe. And you got to be able to probe. And it's fun, but it gets time consuming. I bought one. White's had them. They have them on a lot of the detector sites. But essentially, you can use a screwdriver, just, dull the top tip of it out and everything. But you don't want to scratch
it a little bit.
Right, bend it a little bit, whatever. And you can pop, a coin pop, and you stick the probe in there. Usually what I would do is pinpoint, slide the, and you're not going to be able to do this on coins that are 6 to 7 inches down in the ground, I don't think. It'd be pretty difficult. But for coins that are like 3 to 4 inches in the ground, usually you slide the probe in there, you tap. You'll know when you touch it. I mean, you could tell glass, metal, and rock with a probe easily. After you do it a few times, when you get down there, you find where it is, and you can get to the lip of it and then pop the coin. It's fun to try. I wouldn't want to do this all the time. There's some guys that do this all the time, and they go into parks and stuff, and they with the coin probe and a small shovel. But I'm not about the recovery. I just want to get the item out of the ground and move on. That's my thing, because I know there's another signal waiting for me. I want to get in there and get out. So
I see an older guy that he detects in Texas, and he goes to all these parks and basically gets he'll get like modern silver rings, but most of the change is modern, and he says you can't use a knife, but you can use a popper, so that's what he uses. But he says basically about 2 or 3 inches is as good as you can get.
Right. I know it's pretty. I was able to do it. I was pretty good at it right off the bat, but it's so time consuming for me. And but it's fun to learn different styles and stuff too, in case you ever have to. Maybe you get a site, you can't use a shovel. You're gonna have, and if you want to detect it, the only thing you use is a coin probe. Better know how to use it, or at least have an idea of how to use it. That's the way I've always looked at it. Anyways, you got to have the right stuff to do a site and everything. But Craig, we're right here at 7:30. A good stop off point. I got to get some more stuff posted, and Craig's finding more stuff on his place with that small coil. And Wednesday morning, I'm gonna try to get out tomorrow if I can. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to or not. That's my biggest thing right now is time, Craig. It's like everything is just every time I get plans to go, something else happens. But this is my relic season between.
We had all this stinking rain yesterday all day long. It ruined the Christmas parade. And
I hate that. I guess
I may go out in the yard. It's kind of messy, but I may go out there, and the ground's pretty conductive right now.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say that might be a good thing for that small coil, just to see what it will do in your own yard. I think you'll find some stuff.
I like that little coil. I'm
it looks pretty
sharp
sharp
with it. I got this, I got this little gold heart, and I'd found one before on that site, but I took it in there, and I get this signal, and it was almost laying on the ground under some dirt, and I noticed that there was I dug a hole there probably a couple days ago,
right.
And recovered a target. So that I almost think that piece flipped out of the hole maybe, but I didn't hear it because of the iron.
Very well could have.
I went over it, and it was like, I got this really nice signal, and I thought, man, that sounds good. But the coil doesn't go super deep or anything, but it just walks around this iron. It's just you can. I use the a little bit lower recovery speed. If you go down to 3 or 4, I don't know if you can go to 3 or not. I found that 3 kind of gets noisy, but 4 is what a lot of people are using, so you get more depth out of the little coil, with the slower recovery speed. But yeah, I'm gonna have to go over the whole yard again. So,
yeah.
But I've been making some finds in the yard in the heavy iron area that the 11-inch coil wasn't even picking out. And some of these some of these signals are kind of surprising because they're popping out pretty good. And I'm like, wow, I know I had the coil over this spot before and I didn't hear that.
Right. The same thing I've been doing on my site. Going, wait a minute, where did that come from?
Yeah.
Yeah. But all right, buddy. Well, we'll talk about it on Wednesday morning, I guess, and hopefully you find a gold coin, Craig. I want you to find a gold coin this year. You only got about a month left. Well, you got less than a month left. Got to find a gold coin.
Well, that's everybody's bucket list, but
yeah, but you've been doing it for a few years than me, then. So you're 30-some years now, or 30 years.
I've always, the two bucket lists that I really want is a gold coin and a Confederate plate. Either a state one or CS or something. But that's you never know. It could happen.
Yep.
I've got friends that have found gold coins. I got two friends, that I've metal detected with that found two gold coins actually, Steve and Mike. But
yeah, I've never got my coil over one either, but it's not for lack of trying. I just got to go with it. But we'll see what happens. Maybe this will be my year too. Never know. So,
yeah.
All right, buddy. We'll talk again on Wednesday morning, guys. Thanks for listening in. And I see Brandon and Gavin's on this morning, and Brandon's freezing to death at 3 degrees and or 3 inches of snow. Or we got 3 inches of snow, and ground is on the ground, so it's probably getting frozen up there. And Brandon's in the summertime, so he's roasting. Gavin is over in Australia. So, but anyways, guys, like and follow the show and spread the word around and everything. And we'll talk to you guys Wednesday morning. So try to have a great day and stay busy and be safe.